Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Colin Cowherd podcast. Go on, hit the subscribe button. There you go, right down there. If you want to be among the first to hear my weekly takes, NFL, college football, more, right there. I want to talk a little bit about Green Bay. So we all kind of fell in love with Green Bay. And then they come out today, the Packers, and they don't. Now, I will say, Jordan Love and Reed, the wide receiver from Michigan State, Jaden Reed, had one of the better throws and catches on the season today. But I'm going to look up something very quickly. What do we do with Green Bay now? So Baker Mayfield and that defense, Joe Barry's defense. Baker had 380 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a couple of weeks ago, I kind of felt like I really like this team. And then as I watched them today, I was like, no, I really do like this team. They need a defensive coordinator change. But I wonder, I see it with Green Bay. I think there's a lot there. I think they're such a young team. Like sometimes you'll watch a team and you're like, they're just a year away. They're a bunch of kids. We probably should have thought that with Josh Allen, his first big year. Like, what do we do? We're falling in love with this boxer who doesn't have a jab. Like, they're just big. I watch Green Bay and I like sort of the direction they're going. But today, to get gashed by Tampa, am I over my skis on Green Bay? Are they just actually a pretty average football team?
Today, I had the Bears on one screen and Green Bay on another. I thought if you could combine the two, take the Green Bay offense and the Bears defense, no one would want to play them in the playoffs, right? I mean, they got, I think the average age of the receivers are 23. Obviously, the running backs are good. LaFleur's a good coordinator. Love has dramatically improved over the course of the year. I mean, Joe Barry has been a guy they've talked about in Green Bay. And let's face it, this goes back to the McCarthy era. Their defenses have just not been good on all their playoff teams. And this team's not going to go to the playoffs more than likely. But their defense today was Swiss cheese. And they've invested a ton of picks. They've spent a bunch of money. They are not physical. They don't make open field tackles. Their DBs don't make any plays. I mean, Baker Mayfield, they have skill guys, right? Mike Evans, good player. Godwin, good player. The running back, White, I don't know that much about him, but he's a talented player. They annihilated Green Bay. So it's this, you go to an off season, you invest in a new defensive coordinator. Maybe you get Eberflus. Maybe you get, if Todd Bowles is available, if they fire him in Tampa, you get Dennis Allen if he gets fired in New Orleans, whoever doesn't make, and get the top guy. Because Joe Barry was LaFleur's buddy from the Rams. And I think sometimes the Shanahan guys, this happens a lot in college, you kind of hire the guys you know. And listen, people like the guy, but he's a position coach. You put him at defensive coordinator, it's been an embarrassment. Now, you could argue maybe it's the players. Maybe their players are a little overrated. But today was really bad because their offense has played, for the most part, really, really well in winning football. I mean, last week, DeVito ran for 70 yards on him in big spots on Monday Night Football. It was the defense. This isn't Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson. You can't let Tommy DeVito have 7 carries for 70 yards in big spots, picking up big first downs. So, at the end of the day, their special teams let them down a couple years. Their defense let them down. I think LaFleur has to find a way to button up his operation because clearly he can handle the offense. And they've always been able, going back to Ted Thompson, find guys in the draft, the Jordy Nelsons, the drivers, the Devontae. That's never going to be their problem. Quarterbacks, hell, they can find those guys. They might be the Steelers of the quarterbacks, right? The Steelers with wide receivers, then with quarterbacks. But defensively, this is the best. The Niners defense is good. That's the Eagles' problem right now. How do you take them seriously as a Super Bowl contender if their defense is going to be a problem, right? And it's the big offseason question mark. Will they fire his friend, which sometimes can be hard in football? And then will you go out and pay a top defense? I mean, Vic Fangio costs $5 million. I mean, that's what it costs. These guys in the SEC make a couple $1 million, the defensive coordinators. This is not, you're not hiring a $650,000 defensive coordinator here.
Yeah, that's UCLA.
Exactly.
So it is interesting, though, because the best quarterback is winning all these divisions almost down the line. Baker Mayfield's the best quarterback in this division. He was the number 1 pick. Nothing against Derek Carr. I defended him for years, but my ship has sailed. When a coach takes him out in the red zone for Taysom Hill, it's like, all right, that you're telling me something. So Baker's the best quarterback, probably most talented quarterback in the division. Tampa has a chance to win this division, and now they're going to draft near, at the bottom third of the first round. You're not getting your quarterback. You'd have to wholesale sell it. And my takeaway with performances like this from Baker, if it's a reasonable contract, is it the craziest thing to say he's the best quarterback in the division? We can get him for $28 million or whatever it would be. It wouldn't have to pay $38, $48. We're not going to pay that. Baker, probably. Baker's now no state tax, Tampa, good receivers, not dysfunctional Cleveland. Tampa is actually a highly functional team. I mean, they've drafted very well for years. When I covered them with McKay, they drafted well. They've had good coaches, good players. They really have not done the quarterback position particularly well. But you go from Tommy, and now you go to Baker, a number one pick. Does Baker have a chance this year? They draft the quarterback 4th round to just get another year?
Yeah, to me, Baker's like a 1 year, $15 million a year guy. I think this year was like 1.4, 1.5. Now, to me, I can't give him $25, $30 million because he's had a lot of games.
Yes.
And ultimately, to me, he's like a fringe backup, probably somewhere in the 20s, but he has the talent. When he looks good, he looks like a legitimate starter. But then next week, he'll go struggle to throw for 150, yards. So, yeah, you probably roll it back, especially if you're drafted 20. Hell, you could bring him back on a 1 year, $15 million, 1 year, $12 million, and still draft a guy at 20 if you like him. He kind of becomes your version of Geno Smith. Because the one thing you got to give him a lot of credit, Colin, is unlike Cleveland, where everyone was like kind of over him, they like him there. Jason Light's been outspoken. The players like him. So listen, men mature a little later sometimes, and he leads them to the playoffs. It'd be big for him. It'd be big for Todd Bowles. I mean, it'd be a pretty big moment. Back-to-back playoffs, even if it's a shitty division. That's back-to-back home playoff games for the ownership.
So Atlanta doesn't have a quarterback, even if they went and got Justin Fields.
Ritter's awful.
Ritter's awful. But Justin Fields has not proven to be a winning quarterback yet. Derek Carr, Saints are tied to that for 2 more years. So Baker's more talented, a thrower of the football.
Carolina's a disaster.
So my takeaway is I'd roll the dice with Baker 1 more year. He'd still be the best quarterback in the division. And
I think he'll be back. Jason Light likes him a lot.
And there is something about Baker, is that if you have Baker, there is a certain edge. Like he does bring, and people think I hate Baker. I really don't. I've had experiences with people that know him. I like Baker. I think Baker, I've always said he's one of the 32 best quarterbacks on the planet. There's no question in my mind. He's a very emotional player. So he gets down on himself. I mean, he can do the roller coaster. I mean, he can be brilliant and awful in 2 drives. So he's very led by emotion. And certain guys are, certain guys are not. But I think Baker, I'd draft another quarterback 3rd, 4th round. I would absolutely have no problem rolling the dice. And to your point, Bowles does a pretty good job. Todd Bowles does a pretty good job on the defensive end. Would it shock anybody if they went to Detroit and won? It wouldn't shock me.
No.
I don't think it shocked me if the Rams went to Dallas and won. I mean, this year in the NFC, outside of the Niners, who do I love?
Beside the 49ers, everyone in the NFC is a complete coin flip. You wouldn't be shocked if anyone beats another team. We don't even know. I mean, the amount of different playoff teams that could get in, it wouldn't shock you if the Saints and Tampa get in. It wouldn't shock you if neither gets. It's like, who knows how this whole thing's going to play out? You can't trust any of these teams.